Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. I am a blessed man this morning, I have to tell you, Adam, because it's not every day I get to fill up on some Krispy Kreme donuts and some coffee before I get started. But thank you, sir. That really sets the tone for the podcast, I think.
Well, you're certainly welcome, and I'd say that Southern hospitality is truly what we believe around here. So we love to serve.
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate it. Adam, you want to introduce yourself, who you are, your company, and just a little bit about what you do, sir?
Sure. So, Shannon, first off, I want to start off by just saying, man, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. Thank you for striving to put so much value that you do into the industry, because it's truly value what you do and the way you serve the shed industry. And I commend you for what you do, because it takes a lot of dedication, I can imagine. And I just enjoy getting to know you, and I feel like I know your heart and where it's at, and it's truly in a great place. So first off, just thank you for all you do.
And I appreciate that. That's kind words, and I try to always remember. If it wasn't for God, couldn't get up and walk through this door, right?
Certainly, that's how it is. He puts things in our life that truly make it worth living, and we're expected to be stewards of that. And I truly believe that and walk by that every day, and I feel like you do as well. So I certainly appreciate it. But as far as an introduction of myself, my name's Adam Martin, and we are sitting here today in what I call Middle Georgia. A lot of folks down probably in the Montezuma area, which is about 30 minutes, 45 minutes south of here, are very familiar with the Middle Georgia area. We're specifically in Warner Robins, and there's not too much here, as you probably figured that out last night. But,
well, I'll tell you what, I grew up so rural. I grew up in a little town of 300 people. So for me, whenever I started looking up things last night on Warner Robins, because I'm not just a shed geek, I'm just maybe a knowledge geek in general. But
Sure.
Every city I go to, I like to Google and look up different things, history on the town, and I'm quite surprised to see the population was pretty big. And I think, are we technically in Peach County here, or we're at least close to Peach County?
Right. So Peach County is the county over.
Okay.
We're in Houston County.
Okay.
Is where we're at.
Okay.
But Peach County is right on the other side of the interstate from us, and you really drove through it to get here.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's funny you mentioned that. My wife, she actually teaches at Peach County High School.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we're not far at all. So.
I got you. Yeah, we talked a lot about that last night, and education, and your wife's in education, your mom was in education, my daughter's going into education. Like what you said this morning, they got to be doing it because they have a heart for it, because it sure ain't for the money. There's no doubt about that.
That's exactly right. You gotta have a true passion for children and kids, and a lot of teachers. I think we're fortunate, especially in our area, that a lot of teachers do have a heart for it. You see different things all over the country that may not think that, and it's kind of unfortunate in some cases. But you're exactly right. We're blessed with a lot of good educators, and again, I have a heart for it, and I truly appreciate what all they do. But I guess to finish my introduction portion, the name of our firm is HM Advisors, and we're based again out of Middle Georgia here in Warner Robins. What we do is we act as an outsource risk advisor, if you will, for our clients. And so you say, Adam, what in the world does that mean? And probably when all the listeners hear risk advisor, guys, don't go to sleep on me, okay? I promise you, we're not going to get deep in the weeds. We're going to try and keep it light and keep it fun. But what we do is we're an outsourced risk advisor for our clients, and really the way I position it, and the way I guess our value proposition is to basically add 2 to 3 folks onto our client's staff without the cost of the payroll and without the overhead cost of hiring employees, if you will. So when I say that, part of what we do is from the risk management side. We work with a lot of shed manufacturers who I'd say we really look to lower their total cost of risk in ways other than just, obviously insurance is a big part of what we do. It's really, we don't look to sell insurance. We we purchase insurance on behalf of our clients, if you will. And so that's really our value proposition, and what we do is insurance is purely the funding mechanism for the value that we bring to our clients from the risk management side, if that makes sense to you.
Makes perfect sense. We got a chance to meet in Greenville down at the Garage Shed Carport Builder Show.
We did.
And since then, they're just lucky enough to be able to connect. This is my wife and my son's along with me on this trip. This is the inaugural, as you would say, RV trip. So we're officially RVers, I guess, at this point.
I'm just so happy I can be a part of that.
You'll forever be etched in our memory.
Yep.
in that first week, that first process, and it's been an adventure already.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed y'all coming down and hanging out with you last night and getting to know your folks and your family. And again, I'm so impressed by your heart and your vision for the industry. So I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it, and my wife's going to tell you you can quit talking good things about me anytime, so that my head can fit in this room. We don't want to get too much ego going here, but no, I appreciate your kind words. I just believe, God sent me on this journey, so as I put in a Facebook post the other day, I'll go until he says stop. And I think he continues to provide the way. I think if you keep looking for the way, I think that if you stop and you give up, that's when you're in trouble. But sort of the goal is really just to lift the whole industry. The show has been as much about ministry, really, I think, at this point, as it has been about anything. And I've been able to connect with some absolutely amazing people that I could, what's good about that is you can never actually put some of the things you experience into words. And that's okay, because it's evidence of, to me, God's creation beyond, and it just makes you want to do. That there's not enough talking I can do to communicate well such good people I've met through this process. So the best thing you do is just kind of like that little, God says he puts a song in your heart. It's kind of like, that song is only heard between you and him when you speak, and it's almost as if that song is, you can hear it clearly. Keep going until I say stop.
That's right.
So keep going. And I think through that, we are, creating ministry opportunities through that. I'm so happy that we live very faith forward, very outspoken in this industry, because I think it's okay to celebrate that part of your life. And I was talking to a recent guest, you don't have to separate your business from your beliefs. It doesn't have to be church and then clock out and go home and then clock out and go to work and then clock. You can bring all that together.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was just talking last week, and he'll know who he is once he hears this conversation I'm repeating. But he made a comment, and it just really hit home for me. He said that I wish I could take credit for it, but I certainly can't. But he said that when he was younger and really building his business, he looked at his kind of outlook was, well, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a church. I'm obviously a church member and a church volunteer, but I'm not on God's A team, if you will. And he kind of viewed the pastoral staff and that sort of thing and missionary work as God's A team, if you will. But what he mentioned was, he said, I really had to get to a point that really bothered me at first, and just because I don't want people to think that I'm just out here not living God's work, if you will. Mm-hmm. And really what he said, and it hit home for me, he said, we're in church, and I mean 2 to 3 times a week, if you will, but we're on the job, and we're with our employees every single day, or at least 5-6 days a week, if you
mm-hmm.
will. And I have more of an opportunity to minister through work and minister to these guys than even getting them through the door at church once a week, if you will. Right. And that just really hit home for me. And he said that he's taken that kind of outlook on it and really just taken off with it from that perspective to be able to truly minister to people through his work and through his ability to just touch people in a way that he can connect with them. So
I like to say quite often I'm far from perfect. I have and will make plenty of mistakes. But I remember one thing that somebody said one time. They said, how do you live publicly with your trying to show your love for Christ? If you profess to be a Christian, if you had to sit in court and a jury of your peers had to find you guilty of being a Christian, would your life present enough evidence to find you guilty?
That's strong right there. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
I mean, that hits home very easily.
Yeah. It has for me at several times throughout. So, man, Adam, just great guy, young guy, so mature for your age.
I appreciate that.
It's something I really thought about last night as I got back to our little RV spot and just thought about what we wanted to talk about today. So tell me more about managing risk. What's something you're in? Well, what's your introduction to the shed industry? How about that?
Sure. So I kind of what I call it a back door, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, my granddad was he was a row crop farmer. He worked anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 acres every year, and so I grew up on the farm, if you will. Every summer I spent with him, and I just had those are some of the fondest memories of my life is just working, riding on equipment and working the land with my granddad. And my dad, he was in at that time and really he had about a 25 to 30 year career. And Dad, I'm sure you're going to listen to this, so don't come and slap me for saying that, how old you are, but anyway, he had a long career in agribusiness development and in that industry, if you will. And so about, I'd say probably 6 years ago, Dad had a good friend that was in the business, had been in the business for years. And when I say the business, the shed industry, and he had talked to Dad for years about getting him on as a dealer for a large one of the larger corporate brands. And Dad just kind of put it off and put it off for years. And one day, Dad called me and he said, "I'm going to go meet this guy at Western Sizzling, and I want you to come." And it was kind of something, at least from my perspective. My dad, he's an entrepreneur, if you will. So he's always done a lot of things and had his hands in a number of different industries. And so I grew up small business minded and that sort of thing. And so I really thought the dad's aspect and outlook on it was, okay, this is possibly kind of a part-time type deal opportunity that he could do on the side, and I was looking to possibly get involved as well on the side, if you will, because I was still fully engaged on my career in the risk management industry. But so we went to Western Sizzling, my dad, myself, and the other guy that worked for the corporate brand, and we just had just an awesome conversation. And I definitely indulged on, the Western Sizzling. They have big old ice cream machines and whatnot. so we had a big time and just fun and fellowship. But at that point, I still kind of thought Dad was kind of a part-time type opportunity on maybe a side investment type deal. And it was about, 2 or 3 weeks later, we're sitting there talking about it, and Dad's like, "Son, we're going to do this full time, and I'm kind of going to step away from other responsibilities I have." He was in the produce industry at the time, and it was just, 7 days a week, and just kind of kicking him. And he was ready for a slow down and a little bit more stress-free life. Dad, I'm not sure how that's going for you as far as the stress.
hopefully well.
Right.
Yeah,
but so anyway, he stepped out and a leap of faith, and he just felt like it was time, and God was leading him in that direction. And so he became a dealer, and I don't know the exact date, but probably 5-6 years ago now. And it's been a blessing. And he's truly just loved it. My mom, as you mentioned earlier, she was an educator in the public school system, and probably 2 years ago now, she officially came on full time with Dad, and man, they're living life together, and it's so awesome to see from being their son. Just they enjoy it so much, and I'm just so blessed, and I just thank God every day that He not only blesses me but my family, and it just really means a lot to me. But they love the shed industry. My dad's got a passion for it. And so shout out to Dad, and keep doing what you're doing.
Good job, Dad. Hey, that's great. Well, he should be proud. It sounds like he did good with, I think you have a brother as well. It's just the two of you.
Just the two of us, yep.
Yeah. I know it sounds like you guys have done very well for yourself, and he should certainly be proud, because sounds like you raised a...
Well, I certainly appreciate it. And so that's kind of my back door into the industry and how I got opened up to the shed industry as a whole. And I never really considered going full-time in the shed industry, just because, I mean, I have a passion for what I do. Yeah. And I really enjoy it. And I enjoy helping people and bringing value to business owners, if you will. And but at the same time, I started looking at it, and I started understanding I call it the hub and spoke method, if you will. So originally I viewed kind of the dealer as the hub, and then the spoke method, as far as a spoke was the hauler, another spoke was the manufacturer, another spoke was the corporate office, if you will, and that sort of thing. And I kind of sat back and I said, wow, this is something that this might be an industry that I can make a difference in. And I already have kind of a background in it. I talk to my dad on a regular basis, and I know what's going on, if you will. And I don't claim, I want to make sure that y'all hear me on this, I don't claim to know everything about the shed industry. But I can tell you this, I know a lot more than your typical risk manager or insurance broker, if you will. And so that's really my back door into the industry, and how I got turned on to the shed folks. And I'm telling you, it's been a blessing ever since. It's there's not many industries like this, and really the only industry that I could potentially even compare is maybe the ag industry. Just because it's so tight knit and the word of mouth travels so quickly, everybody knows everybody. It feels like.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that the biggest thing is, I made this comment last night, and I told many of the folks that I met with that I know listen to this podcast, but really it's such a blessing in the shed industry for me to be able to grow, because number one, like we said, everybody knows everybody. So you do a good job for somebody, you're going to get recommended, you're going to get referred to their friend who needs help, if you will. And that's such a blessing, and I thank everybody for doing that, because that's the biggest compliment that I could receive. But I will say at the same time, my reputation is so important to me, and I know yours is the same way, and everybody's in the industry, especially a man that wants to claim that he walks with faith and that sort of thing. And so it's so vital to me that I truly not only talk the talk, but walk the walk, if you will.
And it's so easy. It's so easy to mess up. I mean, we're in this fallen world. So, I mean, like I have to constantly think about, oh no, what if someone portrays me in this way? Or what if I react badly in this situation? How long does that that guilt have to carry with me, or that image have to carry with? So you got to constantly be worried, especially, I mean, you live very publicly.
Right. Exactly.
Right. You're presenting yourself as a from advisor. A position of ideas and thoughts, and you're trying to, so whenever you mess up or something like that, it feels very hard. That's why, to me, grace is so important. His mercies are new every day. That's why that's so important. It's because we have to be forgiving of imperfect situations. You were talking about everyone knows everyone.
Yep.
I mean, a good word travels as fast as a bad word. Actually, a bad word travels way faster than a good word ever will. Everyone knows that from a sales perspective, because if you've ever had a situation go awry, you'll have that review on there. But if you have a situation go good, no one says anything. They figure that's the way it's supposed to go, so it went good. I don't have to say anything. Unfortunately, I wish it would go the other way, where you got the good reviews and not just the bad reviews. We have a lot of the Anabaptist Plain communities that listen in. We have a call-in line a lot of times where folks will call in. I've said this before, and maybe they'll get a good laugh out of this if they're listening, but the word in the plane communities travels faster than it does outside of the plane community.
Right.
I might have the internet, but whatever you guys got working in terms of communicating, it works way better than our internet, just so you know.
No doubt. I definitely, I couldn't disagree with that. It's impressive.
It really is. And so good words travel,
That's
bad
right.
words travel,
That's right.
you know, and they seem to do it really quick. Shifting gears a little bit, kind of brought forth a question for me to want to ask you as you start getting into this. What's the major risk that you found, like whenever you kind of got into this shed space? I mean, you're seeing what your dad's doing, and as you kind of get to know other shed manufacturers, shed haulers, shed salespeople, what's kind of been the biggest risk that you've seen?
Sure. So that's a loaded question there, Shannon.
I'm sure.
But I'll tell you, so number one, the biggest risk, if you will, that everybody that's listening to this podcast, or I'd say everybody, 75% of folks that listen to this podcast, getting behind, and this touches a lot on the hauling side, but getting behind the wheel of a vehicle. And a lot of us folks, we do it every single day. And, I mean, in honesty, not only for an individual basis, but especially when you're a manufacturer, either a hauler with multiple trucks going up and down the road every single day, it's a huge risk. It's a huge liability. We're here in the South, and one of the reasons I'll touch on, but I don't want to get too far in the weeds on different laws and whatnot because they vary between state to state. Now we do business in about 32 different states, and not all of those states are shed manufacturing clients, just to make that clear. But I certainly would love to make it that way, just throwing that out there.
Let's go for 48. While you're going, go for 48.
But so anyway, the laws vary, but that is from the commercial auto side with hauling. If you have a DOT number and you have a name on the side of your vehicle, you're a target, if you will. From a litigious standpoint, a legality standpoint, trial lawyers are very aggressive. And when they see a commercial vehicle get in an accident, and regardless, honestly, unfortunately, regardless of fault, a lot of times it's you're getting named in a lawsuit. And really the first person that's going to reach out to you if you're at fault is likely not going to be the person who your driver hit or you hit. It's going to be their attorney. And so that's gotten to be a big risk. I'll give you a quick number here. So the average loss ratio in commercial auto insurance right now, and get this now, for everybody that's a business person out there, I know that they're listening. And tell me this, as they say, this math don't math. But the commercial auto loss ratio is $1.16. So 116% is the average loss ratio on commercial auto. And so what that means is every dollar that the insurance company collects in a premium, they're paying out $1.16. That don't make sense.
That math don't math.
It don't math. So
I might be slow at math, but I'm sharp enough to get that.
Right, exactly. So that's a huge deal in our industry right now, and that's why it's so important. A few things I'll talk about in a minute, just to mitigate those risks and help you stand out in the crowd, if you will, from an underwriting perspective. It makes a big deal. A lot of I call them, and this is in no way directed towards anybody in my industry at all, just an overall comment, but I call it just peddling paper, if you will. But typical insurance brokers who peddle paper, they're not going to look at ways to truly set you apart in the marketplace compared to other guys that are in the same industry that you are. From an underwriting perspective, an underwriter's not going to know your business. They're not going to know if you have an MVR policy where you pull MVRs on your potential drivers, or you have a driver training policy. Those things matter, and those make a big difference as far as being able to negotiate a rate. It's not like, okay, well, I pull the MVRs from my driver. Here's a 5% discount. It doesn't.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. It doesn't work like that, Shannon. It works more as if it gives us the negotiating power and really some leverage on the insurance company to be able to really lower your total cost of risk, if you will. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. A lot of great. I don't know. I must be allergic to donuts all of a sudden. I've got a tickle in my throat that I can't seem to solve. It always happens when you do a podcast. That's the best time for it to happen. No, it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you dropping the knowledge on us like that. That's good.
I don't want to put people to sleep.
No, that's good. I think a lot of times that's people kind of want some more in going into the weeds a little bit with the details of that, and they're going to have questions,
right?
About stuff like that. A part of what you do, because you're speaking on that there, is insurance. What's your outlook on the industry of insurance? Because I know you talked a lot last night about not trying to be your typical. So I just want to endorse this, that your heart was really last night to bring about change in a different process and maybe control the narrative and not let the world control the narrative, what insurance looks like. Right. So what does it look like to you? How do you view whenever someone's trying to work with you, or just take that and run with it, if you will? I ask these loaded questions. I'm sorry. That
was about a 3-minute question there, Shannon, but I'll see what I can do.
I'm notorious for this. Just so you know, I'm notorious for this.
But all right. So I guess the first part of that question. So I think that we have a problem in our industry. Mm-hmm. And I think a conception is that, these guys are just used car salesmen. And nothing against used car salesmen if they're listening.
Wait a minute. Let me see if I can use car salesman. There we go.
There you go. I love the used car salesman. Just preference that.
Wait, I should get you. Yay, used car salesman. There we go. Go ahead.
But I think that our industry really gets kind of that used car salesman vibe, if you will, and I hate to say it that way, but a lot of folks they say, "Oh man, here's another insurance broker," and it's our industry's fault, because we've conditioned folks to buy a certain way, and a lot of times the whole goal of an insurance broker is to sell you as much insurance as you'll buy, and I want to make it clear that ain't the right way, if you will. My goal, so we have kind of I guess the second part. I think it was the second part of that question. Might have been the third or the fourth. Or
Sorry,
the
fifth, I can go on if you need me to. I can ask probably a 5-minute question next time.
I'm good to go. So I think the second part of that question was, what do you, and as far as a process, what's different?
Yes.
So we have a process that we walk through. Again, my goal is to not sell folks as much insurance as you'll buy. My goal is to walk you through a process that we put together that works extremely well for this industry. It's a 4-step process. It's super simple. But Shannon, literally the last step of that process is to what I call, quote unquote, finance your risk, which is the process of purchasing insurance. Because that's really all you're doing. An insurance company is just financing your potential risk. Because you know as well as I know, when loss ratios go up, when you have claims, what's going to happen to the rate?
Say it again.
When loss ratios go up and you have claims, what's going to happen to your premium?
Oh, it's going to rise.
Exactly.
Constantly.
Exactly.
I was listening. I'm sorry. No. I'm just thinking of my rebuttal.
I was just paying you back for that long-winded question you just asked me. So, but
I appreciate it.
What I'm saying is obviously your premium's going to get affected by the number of claims you have and that sort of thing. So really, our whole goal there is to walk you through a process, because a lot of times folks, they end up paying and financing their risk for things that they probably don't need to be paying insurance on. And they don't need to be paying premiums to finance, if you will. And that's really our whole goal, is to look at taking costs that you want to lower, and and I guess I'll put it this way: businesses don't ever save money. Just overall, I'm not talking about anything particular, but businesses don't save money. What businesses do is they take costs that they're spending in certain areas. If they do get a savings, if you will, you get that. And my view of that is you are able to allocate those funds that you quote unquote saved to other aspects of your business to invest in the business. And so really, I guess my overall goal is to save you money and premium and cost from really enacting those risk management practices that we talk about, in order to, so you can allocate those funds in other ways in your business, whether that be taking care of employees, or whether that be maybe spending some marketing dollars on the sales side, whether that be to maybe enact some DOT type policies, just to be able to better manage your business, is kind of our overall goal. And from an advisement standpoint, we talk a whole lot more than just about insurance. Okay. So we talk about, DOT, we talk about HR practices, any type of employee type related liabilities that you have out there. We want to protect, and it's not that we put the employee on an island on his own, because we view them as a part of your team, and we want to take care of your team, if you will, and I think that industry, we really do a great job of this in the shed industry anyway, because, people care about people in this industry, and we're in the people business, if you will. This is not it can be cutthroat. Any industry can, but it's not an extremely cutthroat industry from the perspective as if, I don't care about anybody else. I only care about myself. I only care about profit and this and that. And while all those things are extremely important, the shed industry revolves around people. And I think that the shed industry gets it, where a lot of other industries don't. And so at our firm, we really focus on people, and people purchase things from people they like. So we truly want to be, we want to build relationships, and we want to have lifelong relationships. And a lot of people say, well, what in the world do you mean by you don't want to sell us a bunch of insurance? You get paid on a commission basis. Well, of course we do. We got to make money in a certain way, but I don't want to sit here and hold your feet to the fire, if you will, for 2 to 3 years and get you paying a higher premium with all these different insurance policies that you probably don't need. And then you kind of figure it out and say, well, the heck with it. I'm going to go somewhere else. And so my goal is I want to build lifelong relationships and build trust with folks. And I feel like we've done a great job of that with our current clients. And I think they would say the same, certainly. And I look forward to continuing that, if you will.
When you're what you do with little is what you'll do with a lot.
That's right.
So establishing trust very early on, and you said people buy from people they like, and I would add to that people they trust.
That's right.
And that's why relationships matter. That's why you do see risk management, insurance. It's why you see anyone in any business who's in sales, in my opinion, working on relationship, because relationship solves so many unspoken things. Whenever you have trust and you build that trust, but it's a longer process. I've had people call for consulting purposes and say, hey, have you, what's your suggestion here? And a lot of times they'll say, hey, I'm not sure that I'm your guy for that. I'm your guy to maybe put you in front of them.
Right.
And let them sell their product.
Right.
Or let them sell their service. One thing that about what you do that I admire, and I understand the difficulty of it, is selling something that's not tangible.
That's right.
A shed is tangible.
That's right.
And guess what? Everybody likes. Whenever we left the RV park, my wife was happy because we're in the RV, and she's like, "Oh, look, and it does this, and we didn't see this during you can touch it, feel it." Right. You feel like you're taking something home with you.
That's right.
Like insurance is something you hope you never use.
That's right.
You're buying something that you don't want to use. So it's kind of hard to get excited about it, right? It's kind of hard to get, how do you overcome like those objections?
Well, I mean,
I'm keeping it simple. I kept it under 3 minutes this time. Give me credit.
Oh man, I can handle. I promise you, these questions are light compared to what some folks ask me.
Bet,
so I answer questions for a living, if you will. But you throw anything at me. But I say that I mean, really from a tangible aspect. Obviously, insurance is not a tangible aspect. So there's really the way I view insurance is just a piece of the puzzle that gets you where you need to be. You got to have insurance to operate. A lot of the times the laws require you to have certain insurances. So that really makes a big difference from that perspective. And so, I mean, I guess a lot of the overcoming of those objections is our process. And our process is so different than the rest of the industry. I think that's what makes I know that's what makes such a big difference. And our goal is to educate you as much as you want to know. I'm not going to sit there and talk about loss cost multipliers and and all kinds of stuff that are just in the weeds. But at the same time, I want you to know what you're buying, and I want you to know how to control what you're buying. Because I mean, there are ways to control it. I mean, a lot of cases, you can be at the mercy of the insurance company, but a lot of times there's things that you can do to kind of put you in the driver's seat, if you will, opposed to just being at the mercy of the insurance carrier. So our process is just so important to that. And a lot of what I call, like I said, typical insurance brokers, they don't even have a process. I'll tell you what their process is. It's called the quote, hope and hope method. And so I kind of tag that line, but a lot of my clients, they'll hear me say that. And what they do is they typical insurance broker, Shannon, they call you up and they say, Shannon, let me quote your insurance, man. I think I can save you some money. And so they come in there and they get all your information, you know, and they'll sit there and after they leave your office, if they even come to your office nowadays, it's a lot of email and stuff. But anyway, they'll come to your office and they'll get all your information and they'll call every underwriter that they know, whether that company writes in the shed industry or they don't, they'll still call them. And say, hey, Joe, I got this, I mean, just really good risk, yada, yada, yada. Here's all the information. I'll just shoot it to you in an email today. And so they blast out all this information and to all these different markets, whether they know if they're going to be competitive or not. They don't know the industry, so they don't know who's going to be competitive. And underwriters, if you quote-unquote shop your insurance a good bit, underwriters, you got the same underwriters for your area. So underwriters have likely seen your account in the past if you shop it all the time. And they know that, number one, they don't have all the information. So they're going to kind of, I mean, they're not going to be able to get down in the nitty gritty and truly be able to negotiate different rates and different terms and conditions. They're just going to say, well, I got to take another stab at this one. Let me just throw it out there and kind of put together a half-butt submission, if you will, and we'll just see what happens. And they know that they're not going to get the business because they're not getting a fair shot at it. So anyway, the agent comes back and he hopes he gets a competitive quote, and then he brings it to you and he hopes that you buy it. And Lord knows he sure hopes if you do buy it that the other agent did it right because he just copied it. And so our goal is to learn about the business and truly there's a reason insurance is not in the name of our firm. It's HM Advisors and not HM Insurance Brokers, that sort of thing. We want to be advisors to the business in ways well beyond the insurance piece. Insurance, once again, is just the truly funding mechanism for the value that we bring to our clients outside of the insurance piece, if you will.
To me, I think that talks about growth. To me, that talks about maturity of even the insurance industry. I'm sure that you're going to see that, and there's always people in every industry trying to push it forward, drag it forward in some way, and use creativity to find new ways. And it's like you said, used car salesmen have that name for a reason.
Right.
I mean, that's just the truth. Insurance. People have probably experienced that and burned from it, and
Right.
and for that reason, kind of just paints everybody with that broad brush of this is who you are. I mean, we experienced that in church and denomination. We experienced that in, I was talking with someone recently. It might have been Irvin on our way out to Oklahoma to the barbecue out there, JD Perry and Travis Parks. Shout out, great job for that. Yeah, good just a good event, and that was really cool. But Irvin and Lyndon, the driver there for Summit, they were talking about like the difference in the Anabaptist community or the Plain communities and things like that. And I'm trying to figure out the difference in Amish and Mennonite, and there's different variations of, Beachy and Schwarzentrooper, and maybe I'm saying all those things wrong. And I was like, wow, it's so much more in depth than I ever give it credit for. It's really the same with Baptist and Methodist and Pentecostal and you name it. You know what I mean? It's like we all kind of get that brand, but what you're doing, I feel like, is bringing, using creativity to bring a new narrative to the table. And it's like you said, I really feel like I get what you're saying. You're advising on risk. Right. You've got to quit looking at it as the word insurance because it comes with such a negative connotation. So you're advising on risk, and you're allowing people to allocate dollars to where it should be better spent. Right. You make your living through that. I mean, it's the same with me for advertising, right? It's, you know what I mean? Like the money's part of the process. Right. It's almost like you have to apologize for making money. Yeah. With the show, I've always tried to offer free value. Right. And create revenue through other streams. From your perspective, you talked about the spokes on the wheel. Do you think that you can better serve the hauler? Do you think you can better serve the manufacturer or the dealer? Right.
So I think that, really what we cut our teeth in right now is on the manufacturing side. And obviously a lot of the manufacturers, they have a hauling side in-house. And obviously some of them have a third-party subcontractor that do it as well. To answer your question, specifically on the hauling side, there's definitely opportunities that we have. I hinted a little bit on it. As far as the different policies and whatnot that we can help folks put in place, whether that be an MVR policy, whether that be and I know, guys, some of the stuff you're like, golly, man, I know how to tie down a darn building on a trailer, But at the same time, guys, when I sit here and position you in the marketplace to where other folks are not saying that, hey, these guys, they do a quarterly tailgate talk about how to tie down buildings, how to not text and drive, how to properly use a carry an oversized load with a flagger and that sort of thing. That's not, folks aren't going, people in my industry, they don't go what I call the extra mile. My dad and granddad, they really instilled a lot of different practices and principles into me. And one thing my dad always said, he said, son, if you don't go the extra mile, you're going to be average. And that's the last thing you want to be, is average. You want to stand out. You want to be able to truly help people and just provide guidance to folks. And really, the other thing I want you to hear me say, Shannon, is there's three key principles that my dad and granddad really instilled in me. And number one is work ethic. And my generation particularly, it's so frustrating for me. And I have friends that are the same way, but work ethic is non-existent. And I know this is an industry that we're talking to in the shed industry that they know all about work ethic, And so my hat goes off to you guys. And that's another reason I truly have a passion for this industry, that because you understand how, or I understand how you were raised, you understand how I was raised. And I just think, number one, that just makes such a difference right off the bat. Because a lot of industries out there, they don't understand that. And they don't care to understand it. And so I think that's a huge difference. And so work ethic and the last two go hand in hand, and that's just really honesty and integrity. And I live by that on a daily basis and try to. Not that I'm perfect. I don't think anybody on this earth is perfect. But
I see you got me fooled. Here I thought, I come into this thinking, what are we doing here? Goodness, I thought we was going to only interview perfect people. So it's good. It's good to know that there's more like me out there that's imperfect. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think it's great. Oh, wait a minute. That's my line. So some of the guys I'm working with say, you say the words, I think that's great. Apparently, I say that way more than I realize. I love that. That must be my go-to. So if you guys are hearing,
I think I've heard you say that a few
you'll hear,
times.
I love that. And you'll hear me say, and you know what I mean. I've said this since I was young. It's a constant confirmation in the line of communication. I have always been seeking good communication.
Right.
And whenever you have someone say, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying constantly? They're just constantly trying to confirm that they've communicated well, because it's important for them to communicate well. So when you hear me say, you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And if you hear me say, I love that, that's just, that's my nod, if you will, of approval.
Sure.
It's kind of become subconscious. I want to talk about workers' comp.
Boy.
Yeah, it's the elephant in the room in the industry. Jonathan Orrick kind of mentioned it on the episode that he was there talking about how we decide to do things. I've had 1099 contractors, not employees, work for me. I've had folks. So give me I'll tell you what. Give me your overarching thoughts on all of it.
Sure. Well, so they're not popular opinions.
Sure.
I'll put it that way. But you hit the nail on the head when you say the elephant in the room, because it certainly is in this industry. And Jonathan, I listened to his podcast. I mean, how long has that been? Over a year, probably. Let's see.
He did two. The first one was probably a year ago.
Okay. So and it hit me as soon as I heard him say that. I said, "Wow, that's a guy that he understands it." But when I say really, this industry's got an elephant in the room when it comes to quote unquote 1099 employees. Okay. In my view, there ain't no such thing as a 1099 employee. Okay, that's just terminology that we really got to quit using, if you will. If you're a 1099, if you have 1099 guys that work under you, they are subcontractors. Okay, and I know that's not a popular opinion, and everybody hates to hear that, but it's the truth. And if you get in a legal perspective or a legal situation, that 1099, the way that the shed industry is kind of built, it really is an employee, if you will. And technically they have rights when it comes to the legality standpoint of being your employee, if you will. So really, I got one aspect on it. The CPA is going to have one aspect on it, and your attorney's probably going to have one aspect on it. What I'll say is the attorney and myself are probably going to align a lot of the times. And the CPA probably will as well, but he kind of goes along with what he needs to do, you know. So I say that to say this, from a legality standpoint and workers' comp standpoint, if you can look at a W-2 option, it's certainly to protect you the most, because that's what I'm after. I'm after to protect your livelihood.
Risk advisement. Exactly. There again, that's the whole.
And I want to preference what I'm saying by this is, everybody's set up differently. I mean, there's some commonalities and whatnot, but excuse me. But there's really an issue in the industry where there's such a void of potential risk that's out there for manufacturers in particular that it's just not aware of. And I understand that. Again, this industry is a people industry, and people care about people. But at the same time, guys, if you got a guy out on the floor and it's a bad injury, he falls off of a scaffolding putting on roofing or something of that nature, and he's out of a job, he can't provide for his family. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest issue in this industry is we want to be able to make sure that you can provide for those guys, because a lot of times they're part of your team, they're part of your family, and not only that perspective, but also you don't want to get in a position where if they have to go get an attorney because you don't have the protection to really take care of them, when something like that happens, then you're in a whole different world. Mm-hmm. When it comes to that perspective. When I'm preferencing, I want to say that I don't force my clients to do anything in a particular way. I will obviously advise you what will protect you the most. But I don't sit here with an iron fist, if you will, and say, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. But I will certainly say, guys, this is what I know. This is my past experience with it. Here's what I advise you to do. Now, even if you don't do it that way, there's other ways that you can kind of squirrel around it, but at the same time, you still have a lot of liabilities open. But that's one thing that we help a lot of guys with. I want to preference this too. I'm not an attorney, so don't take it as that, but a big thing of what we do is we help with subcontractor agreements. And the sections that I provide advice and guidance on is really the big sections, in my opinion, is the indemnity section. And if you read a lot of your contracts that you have, probably the first sentence is going to be, I am held liable, and when I say I'm talking about you as the signer of that contract. I am liable for any and all risk. An insurance policy don't cover any and all risk, if you will. And so that's the big gap that a lot of folks have. And so we help review that. We also review the insurance piece in a contract, which is very important. And when I say contracts, guys, it's very important that you have these contracts with, if you got 1099 employees, if you got, even on your dealer agreements, even on your if you have a third-party transportation company that's hauling sheds. And I don't say it, I want to be clear in this. I don't want to say, you say contract and everybody runs, you know? Mm-hmm. And, mm-hmm. But I don't want folks to look at it like that. The reason that the contract's there is to, number one, from a legality perspective, to protect folks. But at the same time, you view your dealers, your shed manufacturer or your shed builders, and your dealers as part of your team, if you will. So if something happens, if there's an accident, a liability perspective from one part of your team, you as the manufacturer are it's going to get back to you if things aren't right. And the reason that we want to recommend contracts is we want to be sure that folks know what we need, what they need when something does happen, instead of after something happens, oh, well, you should have had that. Well, I didn't know I needed that. Well, there was no contract. Nobody knows, you know? And even if there are contracts, a lot of times, I'll tell you, 75% of the contracts I review, they don't have what they need to have in them from an insurance and a liability perspective. So that's a huge deal in our industry, and that's a service that we offer as part of. There's no additional charge for any of these things. That this is just included in the value that we provide to our clients, which is, in my opinion, goes above and beyond what my industry peers are doing. So really that's a big part of it. And obviously, workers' comp is just a huge liability that's out there that a lot of folks, they take a chance on every single day, and it's a dangerous industry.
It is, lots of potential injuries. I've done some work in addiction and recovery and things like that. I had a good friend who came out, got clean, right? Started a business, started doing a really, really good job. 2-3 years in, building his business, unprotected, hires a friend. The friend, and this guy would build an occasional shed, but, you know, he's doing home remodel and new construction. And this friend got injured on the job. Grinding wheel came off, hit him in the head, goes to doctor, gets all these medical bills. They're friends. They're great friends.
Yep.
Doesn't have a choice, right? Yep. He has to get the medical bills taken care of. So it had nothing to do with friendship. Yep. And I see that all the time, you know, hiring good friends, helping, you know, trying to be a helper. And you know, his mom passes away, bam, spiraled right back into addiction. I think about, like, gosh, how it breaks my heart knowing how good of a guy he is and how he put a lot of people to work and was trying to help people, but didn't have his risk taken care of.
Right. And it's so important. I mean, and a lot of guys, they don't like to talk about it because they view it as it's difficult or it's going to be expensive. And sure, there's a cost to it. But again, workers' comp is the most controllable line item in your insurance program.
There's a message in that. I think it'll preach. It says, well, we don't want to think about it, don't want to talk about it because it's difficult.
Right.
It's better to avoid it and just, and then you deal with the consequences all at once, don't you? And that kind of stinks.
Right. And there's ways that really that we're able to, when I say control, so my kind of tagline is I want to get folks out of the game of swapping dollars with insurance carriers. Okay. So I don't want you sitting there paying a bunch of premium that they're just financing your risk for. If you want to, whether that be retain some risk on your own or avoid a risk, or just like we're talking about contractually risk transfer in a way, that takes a lot of the risk and insurance premiums that you're paying right now. That eliminates a lot of that if you do it the right way, and you walk through our process the way it's supposed to be walking through. And I think it truly makes a difference, and it surprises a lot of folks because they're scared and they say, well, that's going to be too much for me. And really it surprises a lot of folks how we're able to really manage those risks and manage those costs as well. It is a big deal. So.
No, that's good. Adam, I don't know if you know it, but 55 minutes in, it happens that quick. It seems like just a simple conversation, but we've probably done 2 or 3 podcasts here already just in our time. We just unfortunately only recorded one of them. That's the one.
We'd been solving the world's problems if we had a mic on all of our conversations.
I'll tell you, we got it all figured out, don't we? Well, I'll say this. I applaud you for what you're doing. Who knows? Maybe we can, down the road, we'll do a follow-up or something.
Sure.
And kind of come back and maybe get into the weeds a little bit more, and discuss those boring nuance of risk management and insurance. And I think sometimes people are looking for that. I'll try to make a transcript available for this episode. I've been working on that. Just been a little bit behind here lately, starting a second show, and it's had me running and gunning. And now with Deanna joining me full time, that's a lot of fun. But we're working from the road a lot. Yep. So we'll be traveling around in our little RV. Looks like RV life. We're going to be Robin Williams and his family, I guess. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, RV, where he's it's a disaster for him taking an RV. Yeah. But yeah, we're enjoying it so far. We want to visit every spoke on the wheel. Yeah. We want to visit every shed seller, every shed lot, every shed manufacturer, every shed hauler. Yep. We want to be at all the events, every event. We want to talk to those who provide services and products in the industry. Certainly. And we really want to interview them. I believe everyone has a story to tell. I really do. I think we can find a mutual point of understanding. It could be talking about your business and how you can help with the shed industry, and it could be just talking about your story as a third generation shed builder, or how you got into sales. Visited someone yesterday, and they were talking about the Stephanie Maybe episode that we did, and I was like, man, that girl was great. Love listening to her. I mean, you'd be surprised at how your story will help others. Right. And sometimes it's motivation. Sometimes it's maybe a little bit more in the weeds, and that's okay. Not everyone's for everyone. Not every episode's for everyone, but the messages I get for the people gives me confirmation that they're receiving something from it. So we want to keep putting a mic to this industry and get information out there in the best way that we can. Certainly. Just be a resource. That's a resource. Be a helper. Provide value. You recognize that through our conversations as much as anybody. It's all too much. We got way more to say for just one episode, so we're just almost cementing in that we're going to have to do another one in the future.
I'm here for it. I can't wait.
If folks want to reach out to you, they want to get in touch with you, Adam, what would they do? How would they go about that?
Sure. Well, first off, if I can, I just want to really, number one, just thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for what you do for the industry again. I know I said it in the beginning, and number two.
No, don't say it again. Don't say it again. No, I'm just teasing.
We're going to have to deflate his head, guys.
Yeah, you got to get that ego down there in check.
But I
do appreciate your kind words. I want you to know that it does mean a lot to me, because when you do take a leap of faith and jump out into something, and then you deal with trial and tribulation through that leap of faith, it's easy to give up, walk away, quit, or be discouraged, and I just truly believe that if you're walking in where the Lord's got you, and you're being sensitive to the Holy Spirit, I truly believe that it doesn't really matter what doors close by man, because my Father has a cattle on 1,000 hills. He can open up whichever opportunities he chooses to. So I just have to be faithful and obedient. They say obedience is greater than sacrifice.
Right.
So I'm willing to sacrifice whatever I have to for public image or whatever. As long as I'm obedient, I think he'll continue to provide.
Right. Just be a steward. That's my goal. Is I want to be a steward of our earthly holdings and things that he's blessed us with. And really what I want to preference is saying, anytime I ever speak to anybody, I do some different sessions and whatnot with different industries. And obviously my heart is in this industry, and I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to serve. And my heart is to serve. I view it as a privilege, if you will. And so guys that are out there that I already serve, and guys that I potentially have the opportunity to serve, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate it. My goal is to just be a value to the industry and in any way, shape, or form, and serve with a servant's heart, and educate and truly be just an advisor, if you will, from that perspective. But anyway, I appreciate it. As far as getting in touch with me, I'll throw my cell phone number out there. Feel free to call, shoot me a text, whatever is easiest. It's 843-250-5704. You can visit our website, www.hm-advisors.com. I can't believe I just said www. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. but I certainly appreciate it, and feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'll definitely I do call a lot of folks in the industry as far as a cold call, if you will. So if you hear from me, maybe I won't be such a stranger now. But I certainly appreciate it, and I just look forward to continue to serve this industry and be a part of it. So.
Well, that sounds great. Anybody who wants to get some of Adam's information, just look for the weekly newsletter. When the episode comes out, we'll be sure to put a link to the website.
Perfect.
Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll get you in touch with him if you're just not sure.
And I'll say this real quick, Shannon. I meant to say this. Guys, I don't want you to think that you reach out to me. How our process works is we have an initial visit, if you will, and depending on where you're at in the country, a lot of times that's in person, and sometimes it's over a Zoom or something like that, just depending on location and geographic area. But really our initial appointment is only about an hour. It's the first step of our process, and our whole goal is we learn a little bit about you, you learn about us, you hear our process. It's a lot more in depth than what I shared today, but it only takes an hour. And at that point, we just kind of see if it's different enough, and see if we'd be a fit for one another. Mm-hmm. And if we are, fantastic, we'll move forward in the process and kind of walk through it. And if not, if you decide, hey, this probably isn't for me, then guys, I just met a new friend.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just enjoy the fellowship.
That's exactly right. I always look at, you never lose whenever you build the opportunity to witness and have a friend in the industry. I had tons of people I'll never do business with that I'm friends with in this industry. Right. And I say never do business with because I assume that they won't. But, I mean, absolutely love them dearly as friends. And, I think that's great. I appreciate what you do. It means a lot to me just to get to know you. I feel like I connect with you really easy.
I appreciate that. I've enjoyed our time.
That makes it really simple. We like to pray.
Sure.
In the podcast from time to time, maybe not always, but are you confident to close us out in prayer? Would that be okay?
Yep, I certainly appreciate it.
All right.
Dear Lord, we come to you today, Lord, and we just we appreciate the blessings that you bestowed out upon us, Lord. And I appreciate the opportunity to be in this industry, be involved, and be able to fellowship and meet and just serve this industry, Lord. And I pray that for everyone that listens to this podcast, I pray for Shannon and his crew and his family and the commitment that they have to this industry, Lord. And I pray for this industry, Lord. And I pray that you just touch this industry and continue to bless it. You've just poured out amazing blessings over the past 2 to 3 years. And I know that there's some downturn potentially coming, Lord. And I just pray that you help us weary the storm and that you provide for us and a hedge of protection over all of us in this industry, Lord. And I just thank you so much for all the blessings that you've already bestowed out upon us, Lord. And I pray that Shannon and his family have safe travels back, Lord. And I just pray that you continue to just your will be carried out, Lord. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. I appreciate it, man. I'm intimidated by your cool South Carolina. I just want to hear him say South Carolina again.
South Carolina.
That's see, you guys do the South Carolina all together.
Yeah, it's kind of it takes a forte, if you will, to pronounce it the way we do. But I love it, man. So
I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks
your
for
time.
being on today.